So choose any industry and imagine if 100% of people from that industry, that trade, stop working today. How quickly would you feel the impact? And what would that job be? Would it be lawyers, doctors, teachers, cops, military? Who would it be? You know what it is? If farmers went on a strike today and they stopped working, within a few days, you would feel their impact. And you know what's been happening in America? The most recent data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture indicates there were 200,000 fewer farms in 2022 than 2007. Not farmers, farms. 200,000 fewer farms in 22 than 2007. That's 15 years. 200,000. And on top of that, since 2023, at least 65 countries have reported protests organized by agricultural workers with reasons ranging from minimum support price like India to unfair governmental policies like in Europe to outright displacement or eviction of farmers as seen in Benin or Sudan in Africa. So why should you care? Because there's three things we all need. You ready? Food, water, shelter. This is one of them. We're going to talk about that today. Okay, so if you get value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Let's get right into it. World population expected to grow by 2.3 billion by 2050, with almost all growth in developing countries and urban areas to account for 70% of the world population by 2050. But what does that mean? You need arable land to actually have farmers do what they want to do, and it keeps declining year after year after year. Today, according to World Bank, it's at around 10.8% is where we are today, which again is an issue because feeding 9.1 billion people in 2050 requires a 70% increase in food production. That's a problem when the arable land keeps decreasing. Now, meanwhile, if we want to go a little bit deeper and look at the food crisis around the world, here's what we have. The numbers of people facing crisis or worse levels of food insecurity has risen sharply by 35% since 2021 and is now affecting 258 million people across 58 countries and territories. And after a decade of decline, world hunger has been increasing since 2015. The world has not had this many hungry people since 2010. And last but not least, you may be saying, what's causing this? Global food prices reached an all-time high in February of 2022 and will continue to rise as a war in Ukraine, one of the world's largest suppliers of wheat, maize, barley, and sunflower oil, rages on. Now, if you look at World Economic Forum, they may be saying like, listen, some of the stuff that you guys are doing, we need the government intervention, we need to create new regulation because of climate change, and look what these farmers are doing. They're being irresponsible. But if you look at the reason for protests in Europe, mainly, the number one reason is unfair government policies. They're thinking they're doing good for climate change, but these guys are kind of not able to work and make money. If they don't make money, they can't last because their margins are small, so you're indirectly hurting the world. Bad policies are actually hurting the world. Let me read this a little bit more so it gets a little more specific. So causes for farmers' protests. Netherlands, a court ruling on nitrogen emissions. Again, government. Efforts to close farms and cut the number of animals on them. Really? You're going to be cutting it down because of what? Climate change. Netherlands? Let's continue. Belgium. Government limiting nitrogen emissions. Ireland. Nitrogen restrictions. Spain. January 2023, after the government announced plans to restrict how much water they could take from the Tagus River. France. Farmers protesting a pesticide ban. Germany, January 4th government announcement that will cancel a long-time subsidy for diesel fuel. Now let's look at examples in other places. Here's India. The ongoing farmer protests in India, primarily centered around the controversial farm laws introduced by the government, have mobilized millions of farmers demanding repeal of the laws and assurance of minimum support prices for their produce. U.S. Farmers in U.S. have staged protests against agricultural policies, trade tariffs, and corporate consolidation in the agribusiness sector, advocating for fair prices and support for family farms. Europe, farmers in Latin American countries, particularly Brazil and Argentina, have protested against deforestation and land grabbing and agribusiness expansion into indigenous territories, advocating for land rights and environmental protection. And by the way, things got so bad in India that India sent an executive order to X, Twitter, to take down certain accounts, and Twitter had to do it, and they had to make a statement afterwards saying the fact that in its clarification, X said the accounts and posts were being withheld in India alone in compliance with the orders. However, they added that the platform did not agree with the government's action and maintained that freedom of expression should extend to these posts, which means in India, they were able to use an executive order, the government, to say, hey, you can't let these guys protest on Twitter. It's getting a little too out of hand. And by the way, this was just an example in India, but all over the world, if you go on Twitter and X and see how these guys are protesting by bringing tractors, blocking streets in front of the parliament, in front of all over the place, even political people getting involved, they're making a statement all over the place. Farmers are, with how frustrated they are in freeways, roads, streets, and people are coming out. Some people can't even get to work because they're coming out to saying, hey, we want attention. This is a problem. Help us out. We're working so we can feed you. Do you realize we're on your side? And more people are starting to say, hey, we're kind of leaning towards these farmers because, again, 3 things I need: food, water, shelter. This is my food. Help these guys out. So look, in closing, a couple things I want you to be thinking about. 1, bad policies have consequences, and we're seeing this all over the world. 2, you know how sometimes, like during COVID, when a crisis happens, certain people we didn't like and support, all of a sudden we're like, my gosh, I value this person. When I was a kid, a cop pulled me over. I was rude to cops when I was a kid. Like, now I can't stand cops. And then later on in life, when something happens to you, like, man, thank you so much for showing up when I called 911. Thank you, officer. And then you become more and more grateful because you need them. Let's defund the police. Parents and families are like, no, please. We need cops in these communities. Okay, let's not do that. We definitely need cops. Oh, these military guys, all they want is war. And then somebody attacks you and you're like, oh my God, thank you for your service that you came and protected us. 9/11 happens. Oh my God, thank you for coming and looking for my son, my husband, my daughter. Thank you. There are certain things in life we don't think a lot about until all of a sudden a crisis happens and you realize, man, we really needed these guys. Farmers, we need farmers. And we need to do whatever we can to protect and fight for our farmers. Not a fun job. When's the last time you woke up? If your family wasn't a farmer, when is the last time somebody who didn't grow up with parents who were farmers saying, you know what I want to do when I grow up? Well, I want to be a farmer. You ever thought about that? Why not? It's probably not an easy job. You want to be out there doing it? It's the reason why most people don't want to do it. And the ones that do, odds are their parents were in the business. So salute to the farmers out there. Keep doing what you're doing. We value you. You're very important. And let's continue to create awareness, because if you have a voice, you can speak on their behalf, because many times they don't have one. If you got value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. There's 2 videos I want you to watch that has to do with this topic. One of them is food shortage. If you've never seen it, click here to watch a video. The other one is vertical farming. Elon Musk's brother, for a moment, got into this business, and a lot of people are starting to get into vertical farming. If you don't know the industry or the business, go watch this video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye.